Hello everybody and welcome back to another video on my channel. My name's Kevin. I'm a miniaturist living in New England and this is Minis by Kev. Long time no see. So I was doing really well at being consistent with my upload schedule and I was really trying really hard to get a video out every week, and then I had some health stuff come up and that health stuff is not resolved yet, but it is better. I just took a lot out of me and it will continue to take some out of me for a while now. So I apologize for not having a video up until now. I'm trying to record ahead so that way if I do have more health stuff come up, I can be ahead of schedule so that way I don't miss another week. We'll see if that works. Also, this lighting is terrible, but I had to do this right now. This is the only time I have to do this and I have this going on. But I am feeling better. Not completely better, but like better. So fingers crossed this sit, I can keep going. For this week's video, I wanted to finally make something to go with the parquet floor that I worked on well, I was gonna say a couple weeks ago, but it was a couple of videos ago. It was a while ago now. I wanted to make a little small diorama room box for it. I didn't want a very large one. I couldn't do it too large because I'd already done the parquet floor, so it had to be a certain size. I'll go ahead and link the other video up above, so if you haven't seen it, you can go watch it. And I wanted to make a room for it, but it couldn't be big because there was already a predetermined size for the flooring. And I went through a couple different ideas for what I was gonna do with this room. I had a different idea that I was going with and it just didn't end up working out. So in the end, I think I'm gonna make this into like a little, I'm still not 100% sure. I know obviously based on the thumbnail and the title what's going into it, but like all this stuff going into it, I'm not positive yet, but I want some kind of reading nook. So I'm thinking maybe some kind of like office or like living room or like something like that. I'm just going to make it like a dream room I wish I had in my someday house. And that's what we're going with. So this week though, I'm going to make the walls and the ceiling structure as well as the book nook insert to go into the room. So let's go ahead and turn the camera on and get started. The first step in this project was to create the room box. And normally when I'm creating a room box or a diorama, I look up the dimensions online of one that like a more reputable brand makes, so that way I can kind of base the size of my room box off of one that I know that other people are using, because I want it to kind of blend in with other ones that exist in the world. For this one though, the floor was already a predetermined size because I had made this as a sampler of if I could do this kind of flooring or not. So I couldn't make it any bigger. It was already done. So what I decided to do was just make it a perfect square and then make it a little bit taller though. It's not a, I guess it's a perfect square but not a perfect cube. I'm rambling at this point, but basically I just made sure that the walls were all the same size to match the floor, and then I made it taller so that way it was a square but not a cube. After that I sanded the bottom and put on some glue because I did want some support underneath the floor, because the way I made it, it can kind of like move a little bit. It can like crack. I don't really know how to explain it, but I showed it in my last video. So I knew I needed to weigh it down on a piece of this poster board. This poster board I actually got from the Dollar Tree. I've seen a lot of people say that you can use Dollar Tree foam board for projects, so I wanted to go ahead and try it out myself. And while it isn't as nice as like the more expensive stuff that you get from a craft store, it does do the job. I don't know if I would buy it again though. It is cheap, but I do like the sturdiness that you get with the poster board that you buy from like Michaels. It just has a denser, thicker material that feels like it'll hold up longer. I'm a little nervous about this project and if it will hold up long term, but maybe I can just put like a layer of Mod Podge or something on it to just seal it all in. When I first started this project, I thought maybe I should peel off the paper layer that's on the foam board, but to be honest, after I took it off this layer, I realized it doesn't really change much. So there will be one wall in this project that does not have the paper, but for what I'm using it for, it doesn't really matter. I planned on covering it anyway with wallpaper and some wainscoting probably, so this was just a wasted step. Somehow I ended up cutting out this piece too big, so I'm just taking out the X-Acto knife to cut off this little section so that way it was the right width for the flooring. One of the walls will have to be slightly wider to accommodate the thickness of the other two walls, but the two I need to be the same width of the floor. After I was done with the one wall, I went ahead and cut out the other two and I glued it all together. I'll just skip over that part. It was just a lot of glue, a lot of lining stuff up and making this little box, but now it was time to put on the ceiling. This is a terrible angle due to my tripod not going up high enough, but I just lined up the foam board and then I cut out the little square and then we had a roof. At this point, the cube is assembled and it's ready to put something inside of it, besides the floor. My original plan for this room was something completely different, which I have abandoned that idea for the future in a different project, but I decided to go with the reading nook. And so what I needed to do was make a stencil of what the back wall, the size of it was, because even though I measured out this cube, I knew I wouldn't have the exact measurements, and so I needed to do some kind of template. And paper would have worked, but I have a lot of this grape nut flake chipboard laying around, and so I decided to use that. Once I had this template ready, I knew that I couldn't use the chipboard for the backing of the book nook shelves because it just would be too flimsy and it wouldn't be able to take the amount of glue I needed to use on it. So I used the template to trace out the size I would need in mat board, and then I cut that out of a piece of mat board. Mat board is stronger, and I knew that it would be able to hold up against the glue and the amount of glue I would need to use for this project to keep it all together. And here I am just showing you that it fits in perfectly to the back of the diorama, but it was kind of a nightmare to get out of here once I put it in here. And I put it in here one too many times to make sure it fit perfectly, and it was a nightmare every single time to try and get it out. Originally, I wanted to find wallpaper in this scrapbook, but I felt like a lot of the prints were either too big or too metallic-y, which I did not realize these were metallic when I got them. But I overall really liked a lot of these, and I wish I could have made it work in this project. I don't think they're suited for dollhouse, so I want to try bookbinding eventually, so maybe I'll use them for that. I just don't think that they are good for miniatures. The prints aren't small enough, and some of them are just, like I said, they're like embossed with a shiny metallic gold, and they just didn't work. But I wanted to put it in here just to show that sometimes we try things and they don't work. I mean, I barely tried this, but you know what I mean. I have two sketchbooks that I draw projects in. It's this big one and a smaller one, and I do a lot of the big projects that I've done on this channel in this sketchbook. So here's a little flashback, a little blast from the past for anybody that has watched any of my previous videos. You might see one of your favorites in here. I wanted to draw out what I wanted the book nook to look like, so I took the back piece from the wall and outlined it, and this is going to jump ahead really quickly, so stick with me here. But I drew all of the things, I did all the measurements, and this is what we ended up with, which is this sketch, but then I had to transfer this sketch back onto the board, so that way I could cut it out, and this could be the front of the book nook. I keep saying book nook, but it's not a book nook. It is a reading nook. You might have seen in the last clip that I put X's on some of the squares, and that is because these are the ones I needed to cut out, and because there's so many like crossing lines and so many squares on this thing that I knew that I could very easily mess this up. So I put the X's to know which ones needed to be cut out, which is what I'm doing here. I'm starting to cut them out. Did I actually record myself cutting out every single one of these squares? Yes. Why? I don't know. Why did I think I would even have enough voiceover to do every single square? Why did I think that anyone would be interested in watching me cut out every single square? It took longer than I thought to do this, to be honest. I think it's because I need to replace the blade on my X-Acto knife, but I am cheap. My cat just shook in the background. You might have heard his bell. I'm cheap, and I have about 200 replacement blades that I bought in a giant pack, but they are all in my storage unit currently. I do not know where they're at, and I'm being cheap about it. I don't want to buy more. I don't want to buy hundreds more when I have hundreds in the storage unit. So this is the reality I'm dealing with right now, and honestly, it might be why some of my cuts aren't perfect. But you know, I am who I am to a fault, and that fault is I don't want to pay money for something I already own. That's the whole story. This is what it looked like when I had one side cut out. I will say this did hurt my finger. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that I need to replace my blade, or it's just the fact that when you're cutting a lot, it just hurts your fingers. My wrists hurt, my fingers hurt. I have brittle little hands, like a little small Victorian child, and cutting all these things out, it started to hurt after a while, but this is what it looked like when all of it was cut out. Right here, I'm just showing you that the bottom square that I cut out is going to be like a little inset, because the inspo pick I found had like a little indent part where the drawers were, and I liked that it was there because it kind of breaks up the monotony of the entire front of it being completely flat. So I'm just showing you here what I'm doing with it. And this is what the skeleton of the shelf looks like with the back piece and the front piece, and this is just to give you a little bit of an idea of what it's going to look like once it's done being built. When I first started doing the walls of the shelves, I for some reason thought that it would be a good idea to do the middle box as individual pieces on each side, which like makes sense in theory, right? But then for some reason I thought that it would be a good idea to make each square from scratch as well. I thought that each square opening would need 4 pieces of mat board, one on each side. The problem with that is that would take a lot of time to cut all these out, and I did do it for the first couple, and then I realized that I could just do like long strips on each side to complete walls really fast. Granted, it was not really fast, but it was faster than this really short way that I was doing it before. Here I am just showing me gluing on the last piece of the back of the shelf, or the walls, however you want to look at it. I guess they're the walls that are attached to the back, but you know, it's part of the shelf. Here I am just gluing on the last piece and then showing you what it looked like before I glued it onto the actual back, which was going to be attached to the back wall. A lot of backs, a lot of back to back to back. Because I'm a notorious overgluer, here I am just adding on so much glue. The thing is, I had to be careful here because I know that wood glue kind of keeps its shape. It doesn't flatten down like tacky glue does. So any like big globs or big portions would show. I tried to use like a toothpick to try and scrape off any extras and like little pieces of paper. And I think there are some that got in there, and I figured I could just take my X-Acto knife when I'm done and kind of like scrape it out a little bit. And worst case scenario, I put something on one of the shelves that hides a glob of wood glue in the back. And the only ones will know that are me and you all watching this.
Even though I measured a million times, all of the walls did not end up being the same size, so I did have to use 1, 2, 3 blocks on the back to weigh down the back of it so it glued to all the interior walls of the shelves. Does that make sense? I needed it to be one big unit, and I needed the 1, 2, 3 blocks to hold it down while it glued and dried. I glued on the 2 little squares at the bottom to imitate drawers at a later time when I add the handles, and then it was done.
So one thing I didn't think about when making this project is that like this really barely fits in here. I can't even put it all the way in right now because if I do, I won't be able to get it back out. It's gonna be a struggle to get it in and I need to paint it and everything before I put it in. So I haven't actually put it in all the way yet. I put it in a little bit just so I can get an idea of what it will look like with the parquet floor and I do really like it. It's not perfect. There's some glue showing that I'm gonna have to cut off or scrape off or something because it's wood glue and wood glue notoriously keeps its shape. But overall, I am happy with where we got to this week. You know, sometimes I wish I had a laser cutter because a lot of times I wish I had a laser cutter. I think this would have been like a perfect project for that. It's a bunch of squares and it just would have made life a little easier because even though I measured many times, they're not exactly even. And even at the top, it kind of slants a little bit because even if you get like a 1/16 of an inch or a 32nd of an inch, whatever that may, I don't even know, something like that, even if it's a little bit off, it's not gonna fit completely, and that's why there's some gaps in here. And so maybe, you know, someday I would like to get a laser cutter because I think this would have been the perfect project for that, but I don't have the money for that. They're very expensive. Overall, I'm happy. I haven't decided what color I wanna go with this. I was thinking about doing green, but if you've watched one of my previous videos, I did a bookshelf that I painted green, and I'm like, how many times can I use this green color? I feel like I can't keep using it, right? Then it's like millennial green. I am a millennial, I'm 33, so maybe that's just my calling to just only do green furniture. But because I've already done that, I'm like, maybe I should do a different color. Maybe I'll do a different earth tone. I don't really want to do brown, so maybe orange would be weird. I don't know, I might just go with green. I don't know. If you have any suggestions, let me know. This is probably not gonna be worked on for a couple weeks because I know my next 2 videos. So yeah, if you have any idea of what color I should paint this, let me know. Also, what should I put on the shelves besides books? I'm thinking like maybe candlesticks, maybe like little ornamental things. I don't know, like knickknacks or trinkets. I'm very excited though. I'm excited with how this looks and I am excited with how this room's looking. I really like the floor. I really like this floor. As much of a hassle as it was, I do really enjoy how it looks. And, come on. I think it looks really good with this. Like, I think this is gonna look really nice once it's painted and in there. I'm also thinking about doing wood planks along the back of this. I saw in the sample picture I am basing this off of, I saw that they did like planks in the back and I really like how that looked. So I think I'm gonna do that so that way I can paint them and it'll look like planks in the back. Obviously. Yeah, I'm happy with it, very happy. My next 2 videos are fun ones. I'm going to be working on something I'm gonna finally work on the bedding for this sometime soon, so that's gonna be a video. And my other video is going to be a surprise, but it's a big thing. Yeah, you'll have to wait and see. It's going to be a little stressful, but I'm very excited for it. That's it for this week. If you have any suggestions on what to do with this guy, this gal, this guy, gal, whoever this may be, if you have any suggestions for this, please let me know in the comments. And if not, if you like me or you like miniatures, make sure you hit that subscribe button below because it really helps out my channel. And I will see you all in my next video. Goodbye.